welcome to the show. I'm Danella, and here's what's happening now. Today is the day in which I celebrate my birthday. I'm grateful to be spending it with you. Here's what's happening. Of course, we have political pop on deck. This week in our world, I'm doing just a slight birthday twist because when it is my birthday, I like to just reflect on the lessons that I've learned in the world and embrace the challenges that have gotten me to this point so far. So what I want to do is talk to you about a couple of things that Albert Einstein did. We all know he's a genius, and maybe some of his quirky traits can be helpful to you and help you to be more wise and more enlightened. But first, let's just get into this political pop. So, can I tell you, if you follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/DanellaNow, let me just say, you saw me say this, I have received the best birthday gift ever, courtesy of the FBI. I never thought I would ever say that. Yeah, Mueller and the gang, yes, indicted Paul Manafort, Rick Gates. In fact, they were told on Monday to surrender. They did. And we were all sitting back thinking, oh my gosh, so shocking, right? But little did we know that was not the biggest surprise on Monday. The biggest surprise was George Papadopoulos and how this cat has been an informant. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That he had pled guilty. They had sealed his documents. The fact that he had pled guilty for so long. And it looks like he may have dirt on the fellas we're talking about, Gates and, of course, Manafort. And so the question is, if they want to get out of serving hard time, will they tell the truth? Inquiring minds want to know. I want to know. And that is your political pop. Now, let's move on to something that I observed this weekend. I was actually shooting something on Sunday, and this building that I was in, they had a bar area, and the bar area also had, it's like they had all the games on and all the televisions. And I'm telling you, I got there Sunday before the 1 o'clock game, probably around maybe 11 o'clock, and stayed there till about maybe 5 o'clock. And can I tell you, I was in two different areas where they were showing the games, and I had only seen two people, both Caucasian individuals, Caucasian males. They watched briefly, then they left. And it started making me think, especially since, the owners of the Texans came out and said, let me read his exact quote because I want to get it right. You can't have the inmates running the prison. That's what he said. And so you've seen some of the Texans, I think about 25 of them, took a knee over the following weekend when he made that comment. But I'm noticing too, even amongst my friends, I'm asking them, because some of the people that were shooting on the set with me, that was the first time they'd watched a game all season. And we're talking huge fans. Same thing in my house. In my house, no one, my husband and my nephew, they're both not watching. And it's only if we're out and they happen to catch a game will they look, because they're also standing, well, I guess I should say kneeling with Kaepernick, or standing with him. Because the idea is that how can we support something that, you should be able, why should they control your mind? You should be able to stand up for what you believe in. And then also, the only way to make social change sometimes, or really the majority of the time, is to hit people where it counts, and that's the pockets. But I do think that even though the owner apologized again, you can't have the inmates running the prison. Even though he apologized and, taken out. However, you can't justify the truth. And that's what we're seeing over and over and over right now. The world is a world where the truth is revealed. So the reason I brought this up is I'm curious. Can you do me a favor? Leave it in my comments. You can DM me if you want to keep it on the DL, but I can't imagine you would. I feel that most people that I ask this to in any social setting, they're pretty proud of the fact that it's painful for them not to watch, but they are really not watching for something that they believe in, which is equality. I'm just curious, are you watching the NFL? I also have some friends that report on the NFL, and so they have to watch in order to keep their jobs. But I'm just curious, what is your take during this time? Because now you're getting really into the season. I wasn't an avid football watcher. I wasn't. I enjoyed going to games, sort of, but I wasn't a huge football fan, especially televised. But with that, me not watching isn't really, really making a difference, because I wasn't really watching before. But I'm curious for you, because I was thinking to myself, as the season continues, a lot of people will probably start going back. They'll miss watching it. But in my inner circle, I'm not really seeing anybody really going back right now, because especially now, especially with the climate, the reason that Kaepernick first took the knee is still continuing today and increasing, getting worse. And so I asked you, are you watching the NFL? How are you? If you are watching it, what are the ways in which you are standing up for our right to equality? Okay, so now our next topic of the day is over the weekend as well. I had another friend. I swear, Scorpios, man, so many people are born. I don't know if it's because the whole February around Valentine's Day, parents were feeling a little cozy and warm and just populated. But I swear I know a lot of Scorpios. A lot of people that are in entertainment also are Scorpios. But anyway, a lot of parties. So we're the earlier cats for Scorpios. And I was at a party this weekend, and just like a chill dinner party. And we're all talking, and it was interesting because I hope you guys don't get angry, but I'm going to say what we were talking about. And that is the idea that some of the single women were talking about, the idea of the black unicorn. This is a black man who doesn't have kids, doesn't have a sketchy record, has, a decent job, at least a decent job, and feels that he can have any woman that he wants. Now, I'm saying what we were discussing. I'm not saying yet what my beliefs are. So ride with me a second before you inject your comments, okay, in your mind. So yeah, the women were saying, and I can agree. I have, prior to being married, I mostly had male friends, to be honest with you. I did rack of male friends. I was just one of the guys that kicked it with a lot of male friends. And it's true. They do know, if you don't have kids, come on, fellas, admit it. If you don't have kids, especially if you've never been to jail, right? No baby mamas, and you have a decent job, a decent job. It doesn't even have to be where you're like, hundreds of thousands of dollars, just, a decent job. Then you really feel like you could get whoever you want, right? Regardless of how you look. And so some of the girls were saying, he could have a big old belly like he's pregnant. It doesn't matter. He can get a Rihanna. And so the girls were saying that, how the men are setting these high expectations. But this is what made the conversation so good, because then, unfortunately, I feel like there was maybe one single man, possibly two, but he had to hold it down for all the men, because the other men had either a wife or their significant other there. So yeah, he was holding it down though. You could see that men were on the edge of their seats like, represent, brother, hold it down for us. So here's what he said. He said, well, ladies, you do the same thing. He was like, women, you really think that you can get any man that you want and he's going to take care of you, blah, blah, blah. So we're just going on about this. And what I said is, I've always been an equal dater. I really have been. To be honest, I told this story, which is true, when I first met my husband, and we're in a suburban, we're in Maryland, right? This is where we live. And in this area, it's harder to get around without a car. And at this time, when I first met him, he didn't have a car. And I still dated him. And he said, one of the reasons that I knew that you were the right one and I could be with you is that it never bothered you that I didn't have a car. You would come and get me. And so to me, I always, because my past isn't one where I think all of us, but I can admit I'm not at a place where I can really judge where a person is. And so we really got to this idea of, they were initially saying, lower your standards. Hey, dude, lower your standard. If you're not looking like whoever, how could you get a Rihanna or Beyonce, right? That's what they're saying. And so the dudes were saying the same thing, like, ladies, lower your standards, so what if he drives a tow truck? And I was like, well, I know people that drive tow trucks. They're good people. Like, I don't get, why that's a negative thing. But anyway, what I said was, I can only speak from my own personal experience. And personally, I feel that it's not so much as lowering your standards, but more of accepting a person where they're at. Meaning, stop judging. You could keep your standards, but judging where a person is. I do feel a lot of times if we place judgment on people, then that's where we can really get into trouble. Yeah, I guess I just want to bring it up to put it out there that maybe as you're, debating the idea, those are some of the arguments. Some say lower your standards. I say lower your judgment. So now let's move on to In Our World. This week we're learning from a genius, and that genius is Albert Einstein. Yeah, I like to give gifts on my birthday. Hey. I want to give you a gift. And that is, let's hear some of the things, just a couple of things. I saw this, BBC actually did this report, and I thought it was a really good report. And the idea is, you know, Albert Einstein, like most geniuses, are like weird cats. They're weird cats. I can say producers, like music producers, having interviewed many of the top music producers, and I love producers. They're weird cats, and I like weird people. And just weird as in they're very eccentric. Like, yes, very eccentric. Just eccentric. And I like I said, I like that kind of stuff. It's interesting. I don't know what I'm gonna get. What do I get today? It's awesome. But yeah, a lot of geniuses are. So here are some of the weird things, just a couple that Albert Einstein did. Now we're gonna talk about it and see if they're something that you want to incorporate into your life to be more successful. You could. He was super successful and super smart. So the first thing is Albert Einstein slept 10 hours a day and took 1-second naps. 1-second naps. So that's nearly 1.5 times as much as what we sleep today. On average, we sleep about 6.8 hours. I can attest to that. Not good, but that's what we do. But he reportedly slept for at least 10 hours per day. And when he napped, he would keep a spoon in his hand, and right below him, a metal plate underneath it. So if he fell asleep, when he dropped the spoon would hit the plate and he would wake up. Yeah, that's kind of weird, but that's what he did. So, hey, how about you get some more sleep? So here are some breakthroughs in human history that actually occurred in dream state. So the periodic table, the structure of DNA, and Einstein's theory of special relativity all occurred in dream state. So next, what did Einstein do? He took like serious walks. In fact, Einstein loved his walks so much that during the time he was working at Princeton University, he'd walk 1.5 miles there and back. Okay. And other great walkers include Darwin. Darwin would take walks, 3 of them, for 45 minutes a day. That's a lot of walking. And so let's talk about the science behind it. Now, there's a lot of evidence that walking can actually boost memory and creativity and problem solving. And for creativity, walking outside is even better. So trying to get creative, take a walk outside. And I can admit, anytime I'm actually like at a point where I'm creating something in my entire life, whether it be a song or like a skit or anything, coming up with new topics, a lot of times I would love to walk in the park, run in the park, just be outside around nature, even around like water, beaches, pools. I would get the best ideas. Well, the reason behind this, specifically walking, the science behind it is that if you tone down certain parts of your brain, and in this case, this would be your frontal lobe. If you tone down thinking in your frontal lobe, meaning you're walking, so that's another part of your brain that's taking over, then the brain is able to then think in a different way. Keep in mind, the frontal lobe is involved with processing memory, judgment, and language. But when you tune down the frontal lobe, then your brain is allowed to adapt to a totally different style of thinking. And you can test this for yourself next time you're behind a desk. If you're behind a desk and you're trying to just, I don't know, solve a problem, then the idea is don't just sit behind your desk. See if you can just take a quick walk, go outside, just a couple of minutes. You could possibly have more insight. Different insight than you would if you would have just stayed behind your desk. And finally, something Albert Einstein did that was like really kind of weird. This is to me one of the weirdest things. Is this cat did not wear socks. He didn't. He said because a lot of times when he used to wear socks, he would get a hole in the big toe. So he was like, I'm sick of these socks, no more socks. Yes. So here's an important note. I was actually talking to one of my clients about this recently as well, and the idea of casual dress versus professional dress. And research has actually shown that wearing casual clothing as opposed to a more formal outfit has been linked to poor performance on tests on abstract thinking. Interesting. Because a lot of people think a lot of times if you need to be creative or think abstractly, you should dress real comfortably. But tests show that actually dressing a little less casual, you'll perform better. So keep that in mind. And we're going to end with a quote from good old Al, because that's how far back we go. That's what it feels like sometimes. Al says, the important thing is to not stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. And I agree. So before I wrap up the show, I'd like to talk about a couple things that I am older than, because this is what happens in my mind. I am older than cell phones, the internet, and every millennial. That's who I'm older than. However, then I also think about who's older than me. My parents, every U.S. president, and Jay-Z and Fat Joe. And that train of thought led me to this.
Sack full of balls, hard balls, shiny marbles. Marbles fall out like they raindrops. Drip drop.
I'm killing it. Wait, how old is too old to be in the club? Am I the oldest one up here? What's she laughing at? Hold up, Jay-Z and Fat Joe still got hits. Nah, I'm tripping. I'm good. Oh no, alright, the cake coming. Why does it look like it's on fire?
I'm 14,600 days old. I'm 14,600 days old. I'm 14,600 days old.
That dog in heat, can't speak. But I always keep it trill. Gotta stay woke.
Yes, that is what birthdays after 27 be like. So thank you so much for joining the show. Have an incredible weekend, and I'll see you next week.